Good morning. You're all very welcome to our Small Firms Association webinar on tax savings and clever ways of employee engagement. My name is Sven Spahn-Behrens and I will be the facilitator of our short webinar this morning. Before we get started, just 2 housekeeping items. If you're experiencing any technical difficulties, please raise your digital hand and we'll get back to you right away. And if you have any questions, please send them to info@sfa.ie and we will answer them after the webinar. Many members of the SFA have cash balances on their balance sheet, but the spectre of high tax rates prevents them from drawing down this cash. Combine this with the desire to help valued staff onto the property ladder, and you have a conundrum. We're joined this morning by Ben Hoey, owner and founder of Quartech, and we're going to hear about many ways, tax-efficient ways and solutions for you. Ben, tell us about Quartech.
Quartech operates a rent-to-buy platform that helps people with their property needs without a traditional mortgage or traditional banking. It's all done in a very tax-efficient and structured environment. It's an ideal way to help and assist key employees or even to attract new talent. Also, family members can be helped onto the property ladder. And also company owners can cater to their own retirement needs. All loans across the platform are secured on the property in question. So we're trying to put the lenders back in control because the constraints of the traditional banking system just are too much and don't apply to us.
And what is your background, Ben? Tell us a bit more about yourself, please.
I'm a long-time banker, over 30 years experience with Merrill Lynch for over 20 years, sometime with Bank of Ireland and laterally with Kennedy Wilson as MD in Europe. So I've worked on the banking side, on the property side. One of my last roles was Chief Financial Officer in Merrill Lynch up to 2008, where I dealt with an awful lot of international structuring for large corporate clients. I'm trying to take some of that experience down to the retail market now to give people better structures.
And could you explain to us, please, what your specific offering is and why this is of interest to the members of the Small Firms Association?
It's about what's important to your members. And I presume running a business, it's very important that your staff are incentivized and focused. And a great distraction to all of us today, in fact, for a long, long time, is property and our accommodation needs. They're always been a big factor. And companies have been helping employees and others with property issues going back hundreds of years. We want to work with companies to put in structures that help retain key staff or attract star performers, where the war for talent is now strong. We also can assist owners with their own and children's accommodation needs. At the same time, we can improve returns on surplus cash, and all this without the red tape and rules of the banking world. So we tend to lock in loyalty without any transfer of value. So it's all very tax efficient.
And what is the main focus of your business, Ben? What are the pillars that you have founded your business on?
We're structured into 4 pillars. And I've just put up the screen which shows how we operate. We use the one platform for all, and in all cases, Quartech owns the property. That's key. We raise debt on the left-hand side from friends and family and third-party lenders. Then we grant leases and we issue options to those to buy the property at an agreed price. So that's our simple structure. Then we apply that to 4 pillars. The first one is succession planning, and that's solutions for families and companies, key employees onto the property ladder. Our second pillar is distressed property loans, where people need to settle with vulture funds or banks on their family home. A third stream of business for us is the self-employed or contractors who find themselves with large deposits and savings but can't get a mortgage because of their employment status or can't get the right sized mortgage. And our fourth stream, which we're currently working hard on, is to use the platform to deliver affordable housing to the general population. And that's a work in progress.
So 4 really important areas. Let's focus on one for today, just to stick within the time limit. So what would you like to emphasize today?
Today, I'd like to talk about the succession planning for people, families, and companies. I want to go through how tax efficient the structure is, how it can return or increase returns on surplus balances, and people can retain complete control over company funds while targeting areas that they want to help and assist. So just maybe I'll give some examples of some practical examples that have come across our desk in the last few months. Most recently, we have a financial consultant came into us with a substantial amount of surplus cash in his company that was on deposit. He was being charged for it. At the same time, he had a daughter who he needed to help onto the property ladder. So Quartech is purchasing a house of their choice, leasing it to the daughter. The daughter is purchasing an option to buy the property within 5 years at an agreed price, and this is all being funded from a loan from the company with a reasonable interest rate. So he's enhancing the returns to the company, no longer paying the bank a fee, and he's also getting his daughter on the property ladder in a very safe and secure manner. Also, in the last month, I've had an estate agent in who wants to keep, quite a large estate agency, wants to keep 2 employees focused and retained. And they, of course, like all young employees, have great problems with accommodation. So he wants to assist. So we're looking to set up a structure where they can be put onto the property ladder with options given to them to buy the property in the future, and take away all the worry and distraction that they have. He gets to retain 2 employees without giving away any equity, which he's not quite ready to do, but he certainly is locking them in for a couple of years. And a final example is our first deal that we completed, which was a family in West Dublin. The breadwinner was a self-employed contractor, earning a lot of money, but didn't meet all the bank's criteria, as a lot of self-employed don't. He was given notice, or they were given notice on the home they were renting, and he couldn't find a bank who could lend him a small amount relative to the cash purchase price. So we stepped in, purchased the house. That family are now living there and have an option to buy back in a couple of years' time at a reasonable price. So there's some practical examples I thought I'd give just to put some context on this.
That sounds nearly too good to be true, Ben, or is it?
On the surface, maybe, but I guess we've been conditioned to believe that the only way to do business is to give your surplus cash to the bank, receive small interest, or even be charged if the balance are high enough, and that others in your life have to borrow directly from the bank at substantial interest rates. And the bank's lending criteria is one size fits all. And that's been fine for the last few years, but the system is now becoming very rigid. And banks are not looking at the wider situation. They're not looking at individuals' prospects within a company. They're not looking at the wealth or assets of the wider family. And in certain cases, they're completely ignoring companies' variable incentive schemes, bonuses and commissions, and discounting those. So That's the current world. All we're doing is trying to put some manners on it and develop a structure that puts people back in control of their own finances, and they can target the money where they want to target it for the benefit of the company or for the benefit of their own family. Uh, and again, it's all in a very structured environment where the lender is calling all the shots. We we don't actually like to give out any brochures because the structure, which is on the screen now, is very flexible, and we'd rather talk to people and see what their issues are, what their concerns are, what their opportunities are, and come up with a bespoke solution for them.
And Ben, hope you don't mind me asking, but what is your own business model? How are you making money out of this?
We're a fee-based business, so we very much look at our funding costs in the structure. We add a fee, and then we charge out the lease, the appropriate amount on the lease. So we take no interest in the property's value. If the property goes up in value, the individuals in question keep all those gains. So it's a very simple, transparent. When we put a structure together, you'll see clearly where what's going in and what's coming out and where our fees are.
You mentioned loans earlier. Where do they come from?
Uh, they can come from personal savings of people if they're not getting sufficient cash on or interest on deposit, uh, surplus company funds, or even pension funds. Personal pension funds can be redirected into the structure. So it's quite it's quite flexible, and in all these cases, the loans are secured on the property chosen. So there is a legal registered charge. So there's no question of us running off with any cash. Um, Also in the structures, we can supplement the cash required with third-party borrowing if the ambitions are for higher valued property.
And I hope you don't mind me asking, what's the risk for yourself or for your clients?
There's always risk in property investments, but in our structures, the clients get to see exactly where the money's going. They get a charge on the property. Their risk is very much exposed to the property. There's no banks involved, so there's no macro risk going on. So it's it's kind of everyone going into this knows where the risks are and can clearly see it, because all we're doing is structuring a solution for people's needs.
You mentioned at the start, Ben, that the constraints of the traditional banking world would not apply to Quartech. Could you explain that a bit further, please?
Sure. It's we look at the whole situation. We take a holistic view. Who's the lease going to be? Who's the option buyer? Who's providing the debt? And it all gets put together. So people can, across our platform, can set their own terms, the term of the loan, uh, repayment, interest, work out the lease that will be charged out, and also the pricing of the option to the individual who has the right to buy the property in the future. So we're very flexible. We're the way banks used to be when they dealt with people on a relationship basis. Now they've moved to a transaction basis, and it's one size fits all commoditized business. We're taking control back from the banks and giving it to people and saying, you tell us what you want, you tell us where you want to put your money, who you want to help, how long do you want to help them for. So we're not constrained in any way.
And tell me, Ben, what does your ideal customer look like, if there's such thing as an ideal customer?
I guess anyone with surplus cash for a start, that's always helpful. Has property ambitions or property challenges, wants to use that cash in a very effective way to not just enhance yields, but also to maybe retain key employees or attract a new star performer or help their own family members. So it's basically anyone with property ambitions who wants to target their money specifically to friends and family.
Last question, Ben, for this morning. How can members get more information out of what you're trying to do? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Obviously, we have the website, quartech.ie, which has a number of videos which explains some of our products. But the way I prefer, if people just email me, Ben Hoey at quartech.ie, with their particular issue, questions, we can have a follow-up meeting or I can answer those questions. So again, we're about developing bespoke solutions. So we want people to talk to us and let us know what's on their minds.
That concludes our webinar this morning. Thank you, Ben, for your very interesting presentation. Thank you, all our members, for tuning in. And we will have our webinar live if you want to listen back on our website in the next few hours. And also, if you want to email us, you can use the email address info@sfa.ie. Thank you all.